It's not the things that you see, it's the things that you don't see that often determine things. Good evening once again, everybody. This is Hell's Unicorn. I'm just going to be putting in my 2 cents regarding all of the whining, crying, complaining, cries of foul, and so on and so forth going on with regards to the Sean Hannity interview of Rand Paul that just happened this evening, where supposedly Rand Paul has endorsed the flip-flopper. I have long been of the opinion that the Republican Party is a party in a state of denial. A state of denial as to what its own identity is, and a party that is in a state of denial about the fact that it has been hijacked. Now, before I go any further with regards to how immature and knee-jerk reactionary most people are being about this, I want to tell all of you a little story about something. There was a fellow, very principled fellow, who decided to run for president back in the early 1990s. A fellow by the name of Patrick J. Buchanan. This individual had a fairly similar ideological bent to that of Ron Paul. Not completely like him. Monetary policy was not really in the same ballpark there, but stuff like foreign policy, fiscal policy, so on and so forth, all of that was basically in the same ballpark. By the time the Republican establishment was through with Patrick J. Buchanan, almost a very clear majority of this country was convinced that Patrick J. Buchanan was a foaming at the mouth, Jew-hating bigot, and potentially a closeted neo-Nazi, and he was persona non grata in the entire political realm. Many of the neocon elite in the Republican Party were laughing and crying tears of joy when Buchanan did what I think a lot of you fools out there are thinking about doing right now. And that is quitting the Republican Party and making some really, really half-assed, half-cock attempt at doing a third-party run. Now, mind you, I don't hold anything against anybody who decides to vote third party while remaining a Republican. That is a principled stance to make with regards to Mitt Romney. By the same token, anybody who wants to write Ron Paul's name in, fine by me. But you have to remember something. We're fighting an uphill battle. The neocons, regardless to how weak they may look right now, they still have the high ground. And they've got some very big and nasty boulders that they just have to give a little push on. And they'll be rolling right our way. And we'll be running right down the hill just like Indiana Jones trying to avoid getting flattened. This is the mentality that I think is currently going on with regards to Rand Paul and also Ron Paul's campaign people, specifically Jesse Benton, and also to an extent Doug Wead. You out there in the grassroots need to understand something. You can afford to be completely principled. You can afford to be William Wallace and be out there with your blood-covered sword waving in the air, shouting freedom. Politicians are not really afforded the same luxury because they're much easier to destroy. How do you destroy a leaderless grassroots movement? The answer is you can't. It's like playing whack-a-mole. But a figurehead is a much easier thing to destroy. And the way we're behaving right now, a potential future figurehead may be destroyed not by the neocons, but by us ourselves. You know that old saying, the revolution eats its own children. Well, that looks like it could be happening here. Regardless to what those of you who are now currently raising holy hell about this think, the apple never falls far from the tree. Not with a family as tight-knit as the Paul family. And rest assured, there is some sort of long-term endgame at work here that we are not necessarily privy to. And for those of you who think that you can run a campaign better than Doug Wead, Jesse Benton, or Rand Paul, go right ahead and step up and try it. Run for office. Get the hell off of YouTube and actually do something proactive beyond showing up at the polls and casting a meaningless vote in an electronic machine that's most likely algorithmically programmed. There's a time for practicality. And there is a time in which practicality must be observed before principle can take hold. You have to think long term. And for those of you that are saying we don't have another 4 years, grow up, all right? Alex Jones is entertaining, particularly his gloom and doom apocalyptic stuff. But he's not the end-all be-all of this movement either. Nobody is. What we're carrying with us here is an idea, not a single person or a small elite group of people. That's what sets us apart from our enemies in the neocon elite. And the sooner we figure that out, the better. With prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.